Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be speaking here at the Radio Festival. The last time that I was in India physically was in 2010. I was in Mumbai seeing some of my friends at Radio Mirchi there, and I hope they, and indeed you, are all safe as you watch this. Let me start this talk about our future by looking at a vision of the future. It was published in 1922 by a man called Hugo Gernsback. And you probably haven't heard of Hugo Gernsback. He was born in Luxembourg but moved to America in 1904. And a year later he invented something that's probably quite important to all of us. He invented the first wireless radio. He later coined the phrase science fiction, and in his science fiction magazines and in his books he started telling us what the future would be like. This is from a book of his in 1922 called Radio for All, and in it he imagines a world run by radio. He was a bit ahead of his time. All this was supposed to have happened by the early 1970s, but almost everything he foretold in 1922 has now come true. To the top, aeroplanes controlled by radio signals, as they all are today. Then a drone and the idea of wireless charging, which is now built into many mobile phones. A radio-controlled clock and the idea of email using Wi-Fi. On his desk, the internet, and sitting next to him, a radio heater, or as we know it now, a microwave oven. Hugo Gernsback was a rare person, someone who understood where the future was going and how much it would change us. However, many people have been busy predicting not the future of radio, but the death of radio. The launch of television in the 1950s, the cassette and Walkman in the 1970s, music TV in the 1980s, and then the iPod and Napster and Spotify and YouTube today, and of course podcasting. All of those things supposed to kill radio, yet none have. The UK radio industry is particularly open with their data, so I'm going to show you their figures here from 2001. And this is what radio looked like in 2001. Let's not reveal the rest quite yet. Let's remember what life was like in 2001, shall we? We had no YouTube, we had no iPhone, we had no iPod. In the UK, most people had a choice of 5 television channels, no high-speed internet. So no wonder that radio was so popular. It was the only way to hear new music, other than to go out and buy it in stores like Virgin Megastores and Our Price and Tower Records, none of which still exist today. But radio back in 2001 was a big deal. 9 out of 10 Brits tuned into the radio every single week. I was one of them. Since then, though, the world has changed. I can access any song I want to hear for free on YouTube or Spotify. Instead of relying on the radio for news, I can find it online through websites or Twitter or Facebook, and the same goes for following my favourite celebrities. Waze or Google Maps has all the traffic information that I need, with data updated every minute from thousands of other drivers. And all this information isn't just at home. I can do this wherever I am, thanks to my trusty mobile phone. Now, we relied on radio in 1999 for new music, for news, weather, reports, traffic. In 2019, we don't need to rely on radio at all for any of that. So it's perhaps surprising that radio is, in fact, still as popular as it was. There's been a tremendous amount of change over the last 20 years, but radio is still reaching 9 out of 10 people in the UK. It's still part of everyday life. It's a habit that's proving very hard to break. And it's not just the UK. 9 out of 10 people listen to the radio every single week, from Malaysia to Mumbai, New York to New Delhi, Strasbourg to Singapore. Radio is in great shape, and it remains the powerful medium that we all know it is. 9 out of 10 is a great number, and after all the change in the past 20 years, 9 out of 10 people are still consuming radio every single week. So we should be proud of the power of radio. But change is happening. In terms of total audio, older people still love their radio. Younger people are consuming more on-demand content. No longer do they have to wait for the next news bulletin or the next travel news. They know where to find that information whenever they want it. They find it on the internet. Facebook, Google and Twitter and companies like them are even more intertwined with our lives. Spotify knows what music I listen to. It uses artificial intelligence and clever algorithms, and it suggests more music to me that it thinks I'll like. I'm in my own musical bubble on Spotify. I never hear songs that the algorithm hasn't approved, and it happens to do a good job, so I'm relatively comfortable with the idea that Spotify is essentially watching over me to help me find music I'll enjoy. But then, it's only music. Google knows that I'm in Brisbane today. It knows where I was yesterday, what news stories I read this morning, what's in my diary for tomorrow. It knows what music I listen to, what shops I visit, who I email, when I email, how much money I have in the bank, what time I go to bed, what time I wake up, when I have a coffee, what rate my heart is beating. Google knows what medical problems I have and what medical problems I think I have. Google presents to me every day a list of news stories that it thinks I should read. And when searching the internet, Google's results for me are tuned to my interests. They hide things that they don't think that I should read. So it's a good job that Google's not evil, isn't it? Facebook knows where I go, who I talk to, who my friends are. Facebook knows how old I am, if I'm feeling happy or sad. Facebook knows where I live, and using artificial intelligence based on the stories I read and the conversations I have, Facebook can work out how I vote. And Facebook presents to me every day a list of news stories and conversations that it thinks I'll like, and deliberately hides from me the conversations and the news stories that it thinks I won't. It's a good job that Facebook isn't giving that data to anyone else, except of course they are. Radio has a unique power. When I listen to the radio, I listen to people with common interests to me. They live in the same place or they like the same music. But because it isn't ultra-personalized like Google or Facebook can be, it can help people see both sides of the argument. It can help people discover stories that they were otherwise unaware of. It helps connect people. And instead of polarizing people to one belief or the other, it helps understanding and harmony. Radio is incredibly, uniquely powerful. When used properly, radio is able to bring us together as communities, as nations, as people. It's why I have a different definition of radio than you might have. Because we get hung up on radio's technology and radio's platforms, and we talk about live radio and local radio and AM and FM, DAB and all of these other things, and none of this matters, because uniquely, radio offers a human connection and a shared experience. And it does so in a way that we can consume on the bus, in the car, while doing the washing, walking the dog, while working, while relaxing, while at home, while away from home, while in lockdown. It might be live, it might be on demand, it might be on FM, it might be on the internet. But in marketing terms, a human connection and a shared experience is our unique selling proposition, because radio does this better than anything else. So when we're planning our radio stations and we're working on our shows, we should keep this thought uppermost. What are we giving our audience that they can't get through other platforms? Sure, we can play them a new song from Ariana Grande, we can bring them another interview from another showbiz star, we can play them 10 great songs in a row, we can give people a traffic report that's pointless to 95% of the audience because they're not in a car and they're certainly not driving down that road. We can give them lots of things that we gave them in 1999 and a lot of things that many other platforms can give them too. Or we can think about our unique selling proposition. A human connection and a shared experience. The thing that Spotify can't give, that Twitter can't help with, that Google is bad at. That's what we should be focusing on. The best shows on the radio at the moment, and the shows doing well in the ratings, are inclusive shows that aren't concentrating on showbiz and celebrity, but are making the audience the star. If you feel part of a community, part of a club, part of your world, then you'll win. Google or Facebook can't do this. Their very nature leads to polarization and social bubbles that lead to extremism. Radio in 2021 is powerful and exciting, but I think more than that, radio has the power to unite us, to give us more understanding of the world and the people around us. Radio can help avoid the kind of polarization and conflict that we see in the US and some parts of Europe. Radio can help our audience feel included in their community and their world, and can have many positive effects on mental health, social inclusion, and understanding of our fellow human beings. When Hugo Gernsback drew the picture of the future in Radio for All, he focused on the technology. But radio has the power to do more than that, much more. So today, take time to think about radio's part in the future. In some ways, radio does need reinventing to better align with today. Live and local, I would argue, is less important than real and relevant. We need to harness the benefits of new technology and new platforms. But we also need to remember the power that we all have, the power of radio. So thank you, and keep listening.